The cross in the storm. Sarah had always been skeptical of faith. She believed in hard work and science, but had never given much thought to prayer. One night, while driving home from work, a severe storm rolled in. The rain was so heavy she could barely see, and suddenly she lost control of her car. Spinning on the slick highway, she braced for impact, expecting the worst. As the car skidded toward the edge of a steep embankment, Sarah saw a bright light, shaped like a cross, flash in her peripheral vision. The next moment, her car miraculously stopped, inches from the drop-off, as if an invisible force had held it back. When she got out, she realized there was nothing physically stopping her car from falling. Shaken, she remembered the cross-shaped light and felt an overwhelming sense of peace. That night, she prayed for the first time in years. She later found out that her grandmother, a devout Christian, had been praying for her safety at the exact time of the accident. From then on, Sarah believed Jesus had intervened to save her. Please leave a like and comment "Praise Jesus" so we can continue making these amazing stories. The man in white on the battlefield. During the war in Iraq, David, a soldier, found himself caught in an ambush. His unit was surrounded, and bullets were flying from every direction. He prayed desperately, asking Jesus to protect him and his comrades. Amidst the chaos, David saw a man dressed in white walking through the battlefield. Strangely, bullets seemed to bounce off an invisible barrier around him. The man turned toward David, made eye contact, and simply nodded. Seconds later, enemy gunfire stopped, and his unit found an escape route. When David asked his fellow soldiers if they had seen the man, they all shook their heads. None of them had seen anyone like that on the field. Later, when he told his mother about the experience, she reminded him of a childhood prayer she had taught him. Jesus, be my shield and my guide. David knew in his heart that he had seen Jesus, protecting him in his darkest moment. The stranger on the bridge. John had hit rock bottom. He had lost his job. His marriage had ended, and he felt completely alone. One night, he walked to a high bridge, convinced there was nothing left for him. As he stood on the edge, a voice behind him said, "You are not alone." He turned to see a man with kind eyes standing a few feet away. The man spoke with such love and certainty, telling John that he was meant for more, that his pain wasn't the end of his story. He reminded him that Jesus never abandons his children. John hesitated, then stepped back from the edge. When he turned around again, the man was gone. Shaken, he walked home. That night, he called an old friend who prayed with him. Slowly, John rebuilt his life, but he never forgot the stranger on the bridge. He later realized the words the man spoke mirrored a Bible verse he had learned as a child. "I will never leave you nor forsake you." Hebrews 13:5. John firmly believes that Jesus sent an angel, or perhaps Jesus himself, to save his life that night. The burning house and the Bible that survived. Maria had grown up in church, but had drifted away from faith over the years. She was more focused on her career and rarely thought about God. One night, she woke up to the smell of smoke. Her house was on fire. She barely had time to grab her children and run outside before the flames consumed everything. Firefighters battled the blaze, but by the morning, Everything was reduced to ashes. As she walked through the ruins, devastated, she saw something untouched in the wreckage. Her childhood Bible, which had belonged to her late mother, lay completely unharmed on the floor. Everything around it had burned, but the Bible remained intact. When she picked it up, a single verse stood out. Isaiah 43:2. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. Tears filled Maria's eyes. She knew it was a sign that Jesus had saved her and her family. That moment reignited her faith, and she dedicated her life to God again. The voice that stopped the car crash. Rebecca was late for work and driving too fast on a winding road. As she approached a sharp curve, she suddenly heard a firm but gentle voice say, "Slow down now." Startled, she instinctively hit the brakes. Just as she did, a massive truck came speeding from the opposite direction, swerving into her lane. If she hadn't slowed down, she would have collided head-on with the truck. Shaking, she pulled over and took a deep breath. The voice had been so clear, yet she was alone in the car. She later told her mother, who reminded her that she had been praying for Rebecca's protection that morning. That moment changed Rebecca's faith forever. She knew Jesus had spoken to her, saving her from a deadly accident. From that day forward, she made a commitment to trust him completely. Each of these stories reflects the powerful ways people have felt Jesus' presence in their lives, whether through signs, symbols, protection, or direct intervention. Whether someone is a lifelong believer or a skeptic, moments like these remind us that faith can be deeply personal and transformative. Please leave a like and comment, "Praise Jesus," so we can continue making these amazing stories.